Now, if you're anything like me, then you absolutely love sleep. Honestly, if it weren't for, life and responsibilities, I could probably sleep for 16 hours a day. Oh wait, I already do that on my days off. I love sleep. It's the longest running relationship I've ever had in my life, and I really think it'll be my most committed one. But there are actually some people out there who not only don't like sleep, but are actually afraid of it. And after hearing about some of the things on this list, I can't really blame them. What is up, you guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. I'm your host, Ayman Hassan, and welcome back to another video. So yeah, turns out there are some pretty scary things that can happen to you in your sleep. And I don't mean a monster under the bed scary, I mean your body and mind are screwed up and want to screw your scary. And lucky you, because you get to hear all about them today. Now before we get into it, please don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Stay till the end of the video because I'm doing some comment shoutouts. Check us out on social media. Never miss another boomerang of me. Anyway, let's get into it. These are the top 10 scary sleep phenomena. And yes, phenomena is the plural of the word phenomenon. It's not phenomenon that's the plural. Starting us off at number 10 is sleep paralysis. Now I know you've definitely heard of this one. I feel like we've done countless videos on just sleep paralysis stories alone, but every time I hear the stories of somebody who's gone through it, I get like tingly and scared all over. Now sleep paralysis happens when your physical body refuses to wake up, but your brain is still very much active. The paralysis is actually supposed to happen though because it stops us from getting up and acting out our dreams. It prevents sleepwalking, and if you've seen forensic files, then you know that you can actually commit a murder when sleepwalking and not even remember you did it. So prevention is freaking important, you guys. But sometimes it just hangs on for too long, and when we're ready to wake up, our muscles just say, nope, not today. Now, the scary part comes from the 75% of sleep paralysis victims who also experience hallucinations. These hallucinations, for whatever reason, are rarely ever friendly. People will often experience a sense of dread combined with a feeling of something sitting on their chest or choking them, and sometimes their brain will feel like having an extra bit of fun and make a demon or something just appear somewhere in the room. Coming in at number 9 is REM behavior disorder, which is actually the exact opposite of sleep paralysis. So it's when your brain is asleep but your body is wide awake. People who experience this have been known to scream, yell, punch, thrash out, and yes, sleepwalk. Sometimes they even run around in their sleep. That is good cardio. Now people who experience this will often remember their dream, but they won't remember the movement associated with it. It's kind of like an out-of-body experience, and unfortunately because the reality their brain is telling them is quite often different than their actual reality, injuries are pretty common with these outbursts. REM behavior disorder is usually more common in adults and can sometimes be a sign of Parkinson's disease, but the sleep disorder can be treated with medication, so I mean, yay. At number 8 we have night terrors. These are a bit worse than your average run-of-the-mill nightmares that you're probably familiar with. Nightmares happen during your deep REM sleep, but night terrors happen pre-REM, which can make them seem a lot more realistic. And as scary as they are for the people experiencing them, the fact that they're not in REM can make them do things that are scary for everyone around them as well. People experiencing night terrors will often sit up in their sleep and scream, yell, or cry, and won't be able to be woken back up or comforted. And they sometimes end up sleepwalking too, which sounds like a terrible combination if you ask me. Now thankfully they only do last between 10 to 15 minutes, so thankfully you likely won't have to lay awake for hours listening to your child scream in their sleep. They'll probably wake up and be like, "Mommy, what's going on?" And you'd be like, "Here, Jerry, have a glass of milk." Filling at number 7 slot is exploding head syndrome. Now before you get too concerned, this one is thankfully nowhere near as scary as it's titled. Now for people afflicted with the syndrome, they are often woken up from a really deep sound to an incredibly loud sound like an explosion coming from either right next to their head, or it kind of sounds like it's coming from inside their head. Now apparently there isn't any pain or danger involved, which I personally find very hard to believe. If I'm woken up because of an explosion next to my head, I would think I would at the very least have a headache. But I guess the body's just weirder than I thought it was. I am not a doctor. Now at number 6 is insomnia, and even saying the word automatically reminds me of the Craig David song, which I know every single word to and will be a lifelong banger. Now insomnia is something that is often taken really lightly by a lot of people, but it can actually be very serious. The longest time that anybody has ever been awake because of insomnia is actually 11 whole days. After even just 3 days, hallucinations can start to appear, so imagine what the this person would have been seeing at day 11. Plus, each year sleep deprivation causes at least 100,000 car crashes and 1,550 deaths. Not to mention the other health issues like high blood pressure that can come as a result of it. So yeah, insomnia is a bit scarier and more serious than not being able to fall asleep until 2 AM, which by the way, Becky, is no big deal. Coming in at number 5 is nocturnal eating disorder, aka sleep eating. Something that in theory sounds great, but in reality can be very dangerous. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like, eating while asleep. Being able to eat and sleep at the same time sounds pretty great. Except it's quite dangerous, and not just because it's a major choking hazard, which it is. Now, some people who have this disorder are known to use sharp knives or even use a stove or oven when they're asleep, which can obviously lead to some serious injuries. Think of the potential house fires, you guys. Also, something tells me that your sleep self may not be able to tell you not to eat something you're allergic to, so that's just another way this whole thing could go up. And number 4 is narcolepsy. This condition happens when your body is unable to regulate between its sleep and wake cycles, and you just kind of fall asleep anywhere, like randomly. Now, just to clarify, this doesn't happen to everyone who has narcolepsy, but it is one of the symptoms. This can be dangerous, of course, namely because people have been known to fall asleep while driving or doing other things that require your full attention. Imagine having narcolepsy and being a surgeon, and then you just fall asleep mid like heart transplant. Actually, they probably don't let you become a surgeon if you're a narcoleptic. Someone tell me, I don't know. Filling on number 3 slot is false awakening. Have you ever had a dream where you were peeing only to wake up to a wet bed? That is, as far as I can tell, the only definition of false awakening, wetting the bed. Which, like, in the grand scheme of things, really isn't that big of a deal. Half of us have wet the bed a billion times growing up, so whatever. But it can definitely be super embarrassing when you're a full adult, and sometimes if it happens regularly to an adult, it can be an indicator of an even bigger health issue. Okay, so TMI now. The last time I actually remember peeing the bed was when I was like 7 and my family and I were on holiday to Thailand, and my sisters were arguing because they both wanted a bed to themselves, but I obviously had to sleep with one of them, and obviously that sister was not happy and then was actually mortified when I then later peed the bed hours later. Now at number 2 is KLEINE-LEVIN syndrome, also known as sleeping beauty syndrome, and also not sponsored by Calvin Klein. This to some sounds like an absolute dream, no pun intended. This is when you can sleep for an insane amount of time, and I'm talking like 20 hours a day, and these episodes can last for days or weeks and are also characterized by binge eating, compulsive behaviors, apathy, hallucinations, and childlike behavior. I'm sure we've all had our parents yell at us for sleeping too much, but I'd hope the parents of people with this syndrome are a bit more understanding, considering the fact that this is a bit more than a teenager being lazy. It's actually really hard to live with. Imagine you're in high school and you have a bunch of assignments due, or you're about to study for a final exam a week from now, and then you fall asleep and then wake up 30 minutes before the exam. Like, it's debilitating. And finally, at number 1 is getting beat up in your sleep, even though you live alone. Now this phenomenon has a surprising amount of stories to go along with it, considering the fact that it sounds kind of impossible. But yeah, a lot of people have claimed that they wake up after feeling like they're being hit or punched or beaten up in their sleep, and even have bruises when they wake up, which would suck normally and probably cause a fight between siblings, except these people mostly live alone. Some scientists chalk it up to them flailing around and injuring themselves in their sleep, but even more people think that there's a more supernatural reason behind it. Honestly, anytime I wake up with like a random scratch on my arm or back, I'm like, whoa, where the hell did that come from? And then I realized it was me scratching myself in my sleep. Oopsies. Now before I end off this video, I'm gonna be shouting out some comments from the top 10 scariest people who are still in hiding part 7. Now the first comment comes from Navia Star Rojas, who said, hey, we see your belly button finally. I've never actively tried to hide my belly button from you guys. The next one is from Reaper Sands. All victims were found with their hands tied behind their back. Me. That's a little kinky. Okay, I don't kink shame, and I do agree that could be kinky. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is a source of like kink and like pleasure for the killers, but I also don't think we can make a joke out of these people getting killed, you know? I do want to laugh with you, but it just wouldn't be morally correct. The next one is from Brie A, who says, your guys' vids make my day, especially since my crush rejected me. Who the hell rejected you? Give me their address. I'm gonna hunt them down. I just want to talk. I never just want to talk. I will fight you. No, but honestly, it's fine. People will reject you all the time, and a lot of people will say yes to you. If they reject you, they are not worth your time. I'm sure you are a lovely person and you're gonna find the love of your life. It's just not this person. And the last comment is from Gregory Duvale. Juviel? I hope I said that right, Greg. And he says, I love the way Eamon Hassan does these. Oh, thanks! I really try my best. I know I talk a lot in my videos, but I do try my best, you know? And that is it for today's video, guys. I've been your host, Eamon Hassan, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!